Hello, everybody. Hello, guys. How's everyone doing? If you're watching this live or on the playback, hope you guys are having a good day or night or morning, whatever time it is for you. So yeah, I just want to discuss the Gojo versus not Gojo. Why did I say Gojo? The Sukuna versus Mahoraga fight in the anime, because I thought it was an amazing episode, and normally I don't do any live streams or anything discussing these episodes or so, but I don't know, it was just such a good episode that I feel like I have to discuss it. So yeah. I have a nice new stream layout, so I think that should be pretty cool. Yeah, what else is new? I don't know. But yeah, hope the audio is good. I don't really have anyone to test it right now, but I hope that is good. And if it is bad or something, then like just let me know and I'll try to fix it as soon as possible. But yeah, I'm gonna see if anyone joins in, and we can like start discussing. So yeah, let's see. Give me a second. Oh, nice. I think that's Lotus, a friend from Smash, I think? Not sure. IX. I think IX is Lotus. I'm not sure. But yeah. Alright, so let's get into it, because I don't want to make this stream too long like the previous streams that I had. Just gonna keep it short and sweet and like try to stick to just the topic at hand. And if anyone has any questions in the chat, just feel free to ask. So yeah, starting off, I don't know, I feel like Megami explaining the ritual, that it was kind of wonky in a way, because in the manga he says like everything out loud, so Haruta has like a reason to be scared, and in the anime he says the last line, or at least I think the last line and maybe some other lines, he says that in his mind, or at the very least like his mouth isn't moving. So my mind instantly went to like, how does Haruta know to be scared if he doesn't have like all the information to fully understand why he should be scared? Either way, that was just like a really small nitpick. It's nothing big. It's really not a big issue. But yeah, that was like something that instantly like stood out to me. And yeah, and another thing, like when Megami is explaining his technique, I don't know, maybe it's me again, it's just a small nitpick, but I feel like in the manga it was a lot clearer that the earthquake that interrupted Megami's speech was Jogo's maximum meteor, because like you can see the flames a lot clearer, they're a lot bigger in the background, whereas in the anime it just looks like a small flash, and like you can see the flames like for a short period of time, and then yeah, I don't know, it like kind of flashes in and out. Yeah, and another thing is like they chose to do that scene in a kind of like grayish color scheme, so you don't really see the emphasis on like the flames that much. But again, this is just me, could be, I'm not sure. Is this the last episode? I heard this season is cancelled. I don't think it's the last episode. I think there are gonna be more episodes. Because yeah, there are a lot of like production issues and such, but it's not like so bad to, at least to my knowledge, that the stream, not the stream, that the season has to end. It's not that bad. Like, don't get me wrong, they mistreat their workers like really badly, but yeah, I don't know. As far as I heard, everything's still on schedule, so it should be fine. But yeah, so I don't know. I feel like they could have done a little bit more emphasis on the fact that it was Jogo's meteor that was interrupting them, because like Sukuna and Jogo were having like this huge battle in the background, and like Megumi and Haruta were just like, I wouldn't say chilling, because you know Haruta was like hunting Megumi, but I feel like they didn't really have a sense of urgency, which I was hoping they would kind of like change in the anime, but it's fine. It's fine. So yeah, then when Mahoraga was summoned, it was like initially wrapped in like a bunch of bindings and such, which is a new addition for the anime, because in the manga, when he's just summoned, it's like he's just there, he appears. He just like appears behind Megumi, and like now we get to see like what the actual summoning ritual like is like. So you have like the frogs and the dogs, and then you have Mahoraga, which would be like a new Shikigami that he wants to summon, and he's like stuck in a bunch of bindings, which is, it's really interesting, really cool to see. Because yeah, I don't know, it's just such a new interpretation on how, I don't know, it's so weird because I never thought that it would look like that, but it's super cool to see. Super cool. And then I feel like the color scheme that Mahoraga got was also like really nice, because he almost has like a type of ghostly glowing to him. It's super cool. He almost like glows like a ghost. Like he has like the gray going on, and then like his shorts are like pretty dark, but they also have like a kind of faint glow, and then the wheel is golden. It's super nice. And oh yeah, judging from the manga, I always thought that Mahoraga's sword of extermination was like out at all times, but it appears that he can like retract it like a hidden blade. Hidden blade is like the main weapon in the Assassin's Creed games. I don't know if you guys have played it or not, but it's basically just a blade that goes in and out, and from like your forearm, the bandages, or a gauntlet in your forearm. And Mahoraga's sword acts the exact same way. Super cool to see, because I did not think that it would work like that. And then like the fight starts, because you know Sukuna comes in to like save Haruta so that Megumi doesn't die, because he has plans for Megumi for later on. And then the fight starts, and it's kind of going the same pace, like 1-to-1 for what it was in the manga. And then all of a sudden I realized that the scale of the fight became so much bigger. It became so much bigger. And I should have already expected this going into the episode, because of like how all of Toji's fight scenes got extended and they became bigger as well. And especially in the Toji versus Dagon fight and Megami versus Toji, they were all extended a lot, and they became really big and really nice, just showing off a bunch of new stuff. So I expected something like that already going into it, but I didn't expect it to be this much extended. So the scale just got so much bigger, and very cool to see. And then another thing was Mahoraga's size is like actively changing, and he's like morphing with the different adaptations. Like he was even able to make certain parts of his body smaller or bigger, kind of like Luffy from One Piece. Like, you know how like when Luffy inhales the air, his body can get like really big, or like only certain parts of his body. And like Mahoraga was doing the exact same thing. It was super cool to see, and he could only do that when he adapted to stuff. So again, really cool to see. And oh yeah, at some point in the fight, Mahoraga was even underwater, and then it's like a really quick scene, blink and you'll miss it type stuff. But the wheel spins, and what happens is that Mahoraga gets gills. Like, I don't know if you guys will notice it, but I noticed it. And Mahoraga got gills. He was like a fish. And it's just so cool. Like, who thinks of that? I'm just like so curious. Did Gege tell the animators to put that into the scene, or did the animators come up with that themselves? Because if they did and Gege allowed it, it like puts it into a whole different scale of like what all Mahoraga can do. Because basically what I got from the fight in the manga is that, you know, Mahoraga can just basically adapt to attacks or like any curse technique or stuff like that. Stuff that's like actively damaging him, because you know he has to like take the hit first. But the anime shows us that it is closer to Sukuna's description, where he truly can adapt to any and all phenomena. Because if he can adapt himself to be able to breathe underwater and swim underwater and change his body size to however he needs it to, then it truly just goes to show how OP the power of adaptation is. It's super cool to see, man. I can't say it enough. And Mahoraga was even able to use a bunch of like long range attacks by literally just screaming and blowing air out of his mouth, which again we didn't see in the manga. So he's becoming so much more diverse in the amount of stuff that he can do, because he's getting like slashed and stuff. Like initially he gets slashed and his head like splits open, and he just puts his hand on his head as it's like slipping off of his head, like the half that got chopped off, and he just puts it back in place. The wheel spins and he's fine. That's such a good, I wouldn't say durability feat, but more like a healing factor feat. Even though he's not healing, he's adapting. It just puts it into perspective how strong Mahoraga really is. Like, I think someone like Mahoraga can easily beat the Rumbling now. Well, I always thought that, but like it just puts it into perspective. Like you need like such heavy skilled forms of attack just to try and like wither him down to the point that you can beat him. It's so impressive. And like the art was so gorgeous. And sometimes I think they were kind of off model, but I'm willing to overlook it just because of how fluid everything was and how great the episode looked. Like in general, like it had a couple of lows here and there, but the highs were so high that you'd easily forget the lows. Like you would just get so fully immersed in the episode. It's amazing. And then, yeah, so I think it was when Mahoraga did his first adaptation, or maybe it was the second or whatever, I don't know, but in one of the first ones, his wheels started glowing like a rainbow color when it was about to adapt. Because you know the adapting is when the wheel spins, but right before it spun, the wheels started glowing, which was a beautiful addition in my opinion, because it'll come into play later on in the story with the domain amplification on Mahoraga. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna say how or what, but if you know, you know. So yeah, it glowing golden was just really nice, and even at some point Mahoraga's whole body starts glowing a rainbow color. No idea what that was all about, but again, it was just super beautiful to see. And at some point in the fight, I think around the 10 minutes and 30 seconds mark, I think a new song debuts. At least I've never heard the song before in the JJK anime. It might have already played, that I missed it at some point, but I feel like it was a new song and it was a really great song. So yeah, just like in terms of like the OST, the other songs I think already played at some point, so it's fine. Not to say that it's fine as in it's not good or bad, but like I'm already used to it like that. Yeah. And then the fight continues, it's going on, it's super gorgeous and stuff, and then at some point Mahoraga like randomly takes down a plane that was flying in the sky. I'm like, how did he get up there? Why would he need to go up there? And why would he take it down just to throw it at Sukuna? It was kind of weird, but I like it. It's just like bringing more environmental play into the fight. And I just like to see that. Super cool. Yeah, really random, but super cool. I will say that sometimes I would have liked it if they put a bit more emphasis on the wheel turning during adaptations, as in like the wheel would spin very fast, like a really like blink and you miss type of thing, and other times we'll just like hear the sound effect of it spinning, but we wouldn't see it at all. I would have preferred if we would like get to actually see the wheel spinning. Just a little bit slower, just so that you, or at least the casual fans, can also like tell what's going on without like just relying on the sound cues. Because if you don't know that the sound cue is tied to the spinning of the wheel, I mean, you could probably infer it, but I don't know. I feel like it would have just helped a little bit if they put a little more emphasis on it. But yeah, just a minor nitpick. In general, it was fine. And yeah, another minor nitpick is like when Sukuna is thinking to himself how he might have lost if Megumi had summoned Mahoraga back then. I feel like it was clearer in the manga to what he was referring to here. Because here in the anime, it just like shows a small flash of Megumi without any further context, and it like turns into a shadow, and then the scene continues. Whereas in the manga, it is clear that he meant the initial clash when Yuji ate the first finger in episode 1. Because in episode 1, at the end of it, like, Sukuna comes out and Megumi tries to summon Mahoraga already. He has like his hands in the position to summon it. And he's referring to that moment that he would have lost at his 1 finger levels of strength. Yeah, I feel like they could have done a little bit better to refer to that moment. But in general, it's fine. The manga readers know, and you know, if the anime readers don't get it, then yeah, I guess the only other moment that you could have mistaken it for was like when Megumi was outside of the detention center when Sukuna ripped Yuji's heart out. I think that's like the only other moment that you could mistake it for, reasonably speaking, of course. But yeah, it was referring to episode 1. See what else. I had a couple notes written down. Just a couple. Oh yeah, another thing that, you know, we know this from the manga too, but I think it's really interesting how with most of Megumi's summonings, he has to like use his hands to form the shadow of whatever he's summoning, like the animal that it represents. But with Mahoraga, he puts his whole body out using his hands, which to me represents that Mahoraga is the human summoning. It's like you know how like they're all animals? Well, humans are also technically animals, right? So when he puts his hands out, he's essentially casting his whole body's shadow to become the human shadow summoning, which is Mahoraga, which is like also I think why it's called like a divine general, because only the humans are generals. But it also has like a type of angelic feeling to it. It's really cool. So yeah, now we get to the malevolent shrine scene, which I think was like really amazing. It was really amazing. So Mahoraga is overpowering, or I wouldn't say overpowering Sukuna, but he's like kind of testing him. And, you know, Sukuna is also testing the waters with Mahoraga. They're kind of fighting, and Sukuna realizes what Mahoraga's ability is. And he realizes that if the fight continues as it is, Mahoraga might actually beat him. Not because Mahoraga is more powerful than Sukuna, but because Mahoraga will eventually adapt to everything that Sukuna has in his arsenal, and then Sukuna's attacks will like become less and less effective. Not that they're becoming weaker in power, but that it's becoming less effective. So he realizes he needs to take out his shrine and then overwhelm Mahoraga to such a point where it can no longer heal using its adaptation. And then right as it tries to adapt to that, he has to hit him with a different type of attack that he's never used on Mahoraga before. And we know from the previous episode that Mahoraga has the fire arrow. So I think most viewers could already see where this was going, but that scene was super beautifully done. Just the way how like Mahoraga was super huge at that point, and he was like running up to Sukuna, and he like almost starts to overwhelm him in a way, and he's just like, nah, I'm gonna pull out the shrine. And he pulls out the shrine, and initially Mahoraga literally gets vaporized, which I was like, anything like it. Like it was incredibly off model, but intentionally off model from an artistic standpoint. And we see Mahoraga get vaporized, and he kind of comes back, and his body is like trying to rebuild itself as the slashes are happening. And before I watched the episode, I saw the clip get posted on Twitter. And I was like, whoa, what is this? Is this like part of the initial summoning? Or is this part of the shrine? I don't know. I was kind of really confused. And then as I was watching the episode, I realized that no, it was part of the shrine. And wow, I gotta say, like, props to the animators. Like, I know they have like really bad working conditions, and it's nowhere near good working conditions at all. But yeah, despite that, I'm really happy that they still managed to pull something like this off, despite everything being against them from in terms of like the industry. Because in a good world, they would not have to work like this, but it is what it is. I don't think that I can make a difference. But you know, we can always like tell the fans to not support MAPPA, or like keep complaining to them. No. But yeah, despite everything, I was just like really impressed by the scene, and I was super immersed too. I would say that, yeah. One thing that I was kind of let down by was that the slashes of the shrine's attacks weren't like as visible or emphasized on. And what I mean by that is that instead everything just kind of became more and more red, and it was turning red from like the heat of everything getting slashed, which, you know, in real life would make sense. You keep hitting something and a bunch of kinetic energy gets transferred onto it. So I get why they chose to make it red, but I would have liked if you could actually see the slashes happening like what was in the manga. Maybe it's also just because of the medium. In a manga, you know, everything's a still panel, so you kind of have to make the slashes as visible as possible to kind of emphasize what's happening. Whereas in the anime, you have the liberty to show the effects of the slashes happening almost simultaneously. So yeah, maybe it's just because of the different mediums, but I would have liked if the slashes were a little bit more emphasized on. And there was one panel that I feel like got cut, and this is one of my favorite panels from like that series of chapters. And it's the panel where after Sukuna beats Mahoraga, he takes his wheel and he's like holding it, and then he throws it to the ground. And that panel was cut, and instead what we got was that Sukuna holding the panel was like done off screen, and then we just see the wheel falling onto the ground. We hear him like throw it, but we only see it falling onto the ground, and then it like just disappears back into like the mushy shadows. I would have liked if they did adapt that panel, because that was one of my favorite panels. It's like Sukuna just beat like this legendary being, and he's holding the wheel as a sort of prize or a trophy. And I would have liked if they did show that, because you know, him holding a trophy is super cool, and then he just like scatters it onto the ground, and yeah. But yeah, it's a small missed opportunity. It's whatever. So something else that I'm wondering is how Sukuna used the fire arrow right after the domain. Because in the manga, the timing seemed a bit vague. So you could argue that his curse technique was already replenished, but the anime makes it clear that he does it almost instantly as like a sort of 1-2 combo. So does he not have curse technique burnout because the arrow wasn't imbued in his domain? Or did the curse technique burnout just not last that long? Or did he use the arrow as the shrine was still ongoing? I don't know, I'm still kind of confused on that. But yeah. But if it was the case that he could use the arrow instantly because the arrow, or like the open, whatever that technique even is, we don't know what it is. Even now in the manga, we still don't know what it is. But maybe it could be that because the open technique with the fire arrow and stuff wasn't imbued in the domain, that technique specifically also wasn't burnt out. That could be the case. Yeah, I'd have to reread the Kenjaku versus Yuki fight to really confirm on that, because in that fight, you know, he uses techniques, different techniques. So yeah, I don't remember exactly how that went, but yeah. Oh yeah, I'm also really glad that it was properly emphasized how crazy it was for civilians in this fight. The civilians that were like still hiding throughout Shibuya, or the civilians that were like on top of the buildings and stuff. The emphasis on civilians in the episode was really great. Like, you could almost constantly hear their screaming and how they were like afraid and stuff, and super cool. And even like at the start of the fight, I think it was at the start when like Sukuna uses like, I think it was dismantle on a building, and the building starts falling down, and you see like a bunch of people that were on the rooftop of the building, and they're starting to fall off of the building. And I really like how that was emphasized on, because there are still a lot of humans that are inside of the barrier within Shibuya. So the fact that they weren't forgotten was really nice. One weird thing though is that I feel like Inumaki was left out of the episode, because we know from the manga that Inumaki also got caught in Malevolent Shrine, or at least a part of him. He lost a limb. I didn't see him in the episode, but I also don't remember if he was specifically in that stretch of chapters. I can go back and check real quick. When the shrine was ongoing, was like Inumaki visible, or was it just stated afterwards? Yeah, so in the manga, when they're like talking about, or not when they're showcasing the civilians that are about to get caught in the shrine, they are talking about a quote-unquote megaphone guy, which is Inumaki, because we see him. But we don't see Inumaki specifically get caught, but we do know that he's with them, so you can assume that he got caught. And I might be tripping, but I feel like that was left out. I feel like it was left out. Let me go back and check in the anime. Yeah, I'm checking it back now. Yeah, so they're right now in the part where Mahoraga is getting cut up, and the regeneration's about to end, and everything starts glowing red because of the heat, and then Sukuna uses the fire arrow. So yeah, no, Inumaki was not shown in this portion of the anime. Maybe they'll still retroactively show it. I'm not sure. Not sure. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen that. So yeah, I also liked how they did show the differences between how it was like super peaceful for some civilians and super scary for other civilians, because some civilians were literally still in the range of the initial fight, while other civilians were like kind of out of range but still in range for the shrine. So they didn't really know what was going on in the fight, but they did suddenly like perish. So I did like that contrast. Really great to see. I think that definitely got elevated from the manga. Really good. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, and another thing, while the shrine was active, I really liked how we got a shot of Shibuya, or like at least Tokyo, maybe like a part of Tokyo, and you could literally see the exact part where Shibuya was located, or is located, because that is the part where it is black on the map, since, you know, Sukuna was wiping it off the map, so they wouldn't have any like lights or power or buildings or electricity that would give off lights from a point of view that is looking at the ground from the sky, if that makes sense. And it perfectly contrasts the way how the anime opening kind of like zooms into Shibuya. I think that's a really perfect contrast. So that was really cool to see too. And I also think that the narrator did a really good job at explaining Mahoraga, Sukuna's domain, Haruta's curse technique, etc. Although I did feel like I was missing the little visuals that we got in the manga. Like how in the manga we see that we literally see Megami's position on the map being outside of Malevolent Shrine's range. Or how Haruta had like a few visual examples of his curse technique in action. Whereas now for Haruta, for example, we only got small snippets of the prior episodes where Haruta was getting like beat up by Nanami, for example, and he would lose the markings, and they kind of narrated over that, but we didn't see how Haruta stores his miracles, which was shown in the manga. So yeah, those are just small little things that, you know, while the narrator herself does a really good job, I do think that they kind of are lacking in the visual department to support the narration. So yeah, I think choosing to do the opening and ending songs back to back was also a really great artistic choice in my opinion, because it really just shows how special this episode really was, and it sets itself apart from all the other episodes, from all the episodes prior to this one and all the episodes that are going to follow. I think, I don't know, I don't think they're gonna do something like this again. Maybe for the season finale, they might, but I don't think they're gonna do something like this again. Because the Choso versus Yuji episode and this episode were specifically episodes that had an entirely different line of production. They did not like follow the usual pipeline, and so they had a lot more of the budget put into it. So yeah, I think it's just a really great artistic choice to put them back to back. And while the opening song is being played at the end of the episode, or nearing the end of the episode, we get Yuji's emotional breakdown scene after, you know, Sukuna brings Megami to Yaga and Shoko to heal up, and Sukuna like runs back to the damage area so that Yuji can see everything that happens. And you know how like Sukuna has the ability to view everything that Yuji is doing in his daily life, so he also has the ability to view Yuji's memories. That's how he knows a lot about the modern world. And Yuji has the ability to do the exact same thing when Sukuna is in possession of his body. And that it just like opened the door for Yuji's insane emotional breakdown. Really, really well done. Because he has like the moment where he's like vomiting, and then he proceeds to continuously scrape his hands on the ground so much to the point that he starts like bleeding and stuff. And the voice actor did an amazing job, a really truly an amazing job. So yeah, all that, like the music, the voice acting, the animation itself, all of that came together to truly create an incredibly emotional experience. And then it like follows up with a couple of flashes from the different sceneries that we've been at throughout Shibuya, with the song still playing in the background. And it's like really cool, really cool. I instantly noticed it, what they were doing, when I saw the building, a view of a building looking up, and you could see the moon, which was a reference to Sukuna looking at the moon, or looking at Jogo and telling him that the moonlight makes him look pathetic in the prior episode. Really cool. It's like seeing all the different spots that they've been at. You could see Mimiko and Nanako on the ground, or at least what was left over of Nanako, I think, or Mimiko, not sure which one. And yeah, it's really emotional scene. And then they finally end it with Yuji finding his quote-unquote resolve again to try and atone for what he considers the greatest sin, which was perfectly done. Truly perfectly done, because he says he has to like try and fight again to try and make up for what was done, because he's a murderer. He starts like cussing out Sukuna and stuff. But when he says that he has to make up for it, he kind of says it in a way that it doesn't sound like he's sure of it himself. It doesn't sound like he's sure of it himself, because I don't know. Just the way how voice acting can make feelings like that come to life is something that the manga truly could never portray. And I think that was beautifully done, truly. Cause yeah, as a manga reader, I know what's about to happen. I know that, you know, he didn't actually like truly find his resolve. It's just like he said those things to kind of like start moving again, because he knows what's gonna happen if he doesn't continue moving. But yeah, the anime just perfectly portrays how, you know, he says it to kind of start moving again, but he's not sure of it. Oh yeah, Mike in the chat says JJK is goated. I agree. That last part with Yuji is crazy. It truly was, yeah. So yeah, perfectly adapted in my opinion. And I think it also perfectly contrasts the opening scene of the episode, where we get a flashback of Yuji speaking to his grandfather right before he passes. Because, you know, his grandfather, he's like, you gotta help people, you gotta make sure that you make a lot of friends, and then when you die eventually someday, that you have a lot of people to surround you that you love and all that good stuff, you know. And he doesn't want his grandson to end up like him, where he only has one person standing at his bed. And, you know, it perfectly contrasts the ending scene of the episode where Yuji has his breakdown, and he truly is not accomplishing what he wanted to accomplish and what his grandfather wanted for him. It's so good. And the voice actor, once again, just going above and beyond, as Mike says in the chat. Super good, super good, super good. And then lastly, we get the closing scene with Nanami walking alone. And I'm not gonna lie, just the way how that scene was portrayed, that feels like a major death flag. A major death flag. And I know what's gonna happen. But just the way how that scene is portrayed, oh my god, that feels like a major death flag. So yeah. Man, what a great episode. If I had to give it a rating, I would say that it is probably a 10 out of 10. Truly a 10 out of 10. As I said throughout the stream, I do have like some minor nitpicks here and there. Just like small stuff, artistic choices. But just from what we've seen and how they chose to adapt it, it is so good. So good. And I don't know if I like this episode more or the Yuji versus Choso episode, but those two episodes are right now in my top 2 of this season. I really like those episodes. So yeah, this season is indeed going crazy, man. It is so good. So good. Yeah. And yeah, it is truly like you say, Yuji, like right now he is kind of all alone, because you know, Megumi is on the brink of death, and Nobara she's not there. Like, we know she's still alive. Nothing happened to her at this point in time in the story, so she should be able to rendezvous with Yuji in the next episode. But at this point in time, like, he's just going through such a traumatic experience that, man, I really feel bad for Yuji. What a good MC he is. Like, it's crazy, truly crazy. Because I'll put something into perspective for you guys. So we know that Sukuna has the ability to look through Yuji's memories, and Yuji also has the ability to look through Sukuna's memories. But Yuji actively chooses not to do that, because, like, Sukuna is such a wicked person. He doesn't want to live through all the stuff that Sukuna did, etc., etc. But when Sukuna possesses Yuji, it's a different story. So now it's not like he's actively choosing to dig through Sukuna's memories, but what's happening instead is that if he's not watching what Sukuna is doing while he possesses him, then all of those memories suddenly in one go just flood into Yuji's mind. If he chooses not to view what Sukuna is doing, of course, which he doesn't, because he hates Sukuna. But the consequence is that all of that stuff just in one shot, he gets so much traumatic memories. He sees how Megumi is on the brink of death. He sees how Haruta got cut up. He sees how the entire scary fight of Sukuna versus Mahoraga went down. He sees how Mimiko and Nanako got butchered. He sees how Panda and Kusakabe and a lot of Ghetto's underlings were threatened and almost died from Jogo's maximum meteor. He sees what else does he see? I think that's about it, but it's just a really traumatic experience. Oh yeah. I forgot the most important one. He sees how everyone in Shibuya got cut up by Malevolent Shrine. So, man, it's just peak fiction. Truly peak fiction. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, even if they, like, truly messed up the anime adaptation, I still think that it would still be really good, just because of how amazing the source material is. Truly. Because there are some episodes that I don't really think are that good so far in this season. That's just if I'm being, like, really honest. Or certain scenes, I should rather say, that I don't think are that good. But this episode truly went above and beyond, especially when you consider how horrible the working conditions are for the animators. That I heard, like, some of them worked, like, what is it, 300 hours in 1 month to get this stuff done. Boy, let me go back and check before I'm, like, talking nonsense. 300 divided by 31 is, yeah, it was a little over 300 hours. So, like, they were working, like, I think 10 to 11 hour shifts every day, no weekend breaks and stuff. So yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, Mike, indeed, JJK 0 was made in 4 months. It recently got confirmed, which is crazy considering the quality of that movie. I think that movie is gorgeous, but to have a movie like that be made in 4 months, while, like, most Western animation have a pipeline of, like, 2 years at minimum to make a movie, at minimum. Because you even see stuff like what is it, not Into the Spider-Verse, but its sequel, I think it's Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, that was a great movie as well, but they had, I think, a little over 2 years to make that movie, and they still just barely cut it close, and, like, they almost didn't make it in time. for the release date, and the movie got delayed, I think. So yeah, just goes to show how absurd the working conditions of these Japanese animators are. I really feel bad for the MAPPA staff, but yeah, it is what it is. I can't personally change any of that. I sympathize with them, and I will stay vocal about it online, that I will advocate for change. But yeah, just purely looking at it from an aspect of what they delivered, this episode was amazing. I could have asked for more if I'm like being a nitpicky person, but if I'm being realistic, I could not have asked for more. It was truly great. So yeah, that was this episode. I just really wanted to get my thoughts off my chest. And yeah, maybe you guys will watch it back in the VOD, I don't know. But I'm just super glad that it turned out so amazing. And we still have a couple episodes left, because right now we're on episode 17. And I believe the season is supposed to run for 23 episodes. So yeah, we still have 6 episodes to go. 6 weeks to go. My fellow manga readers, you know exactly what's about to go down. The Mahito fights. And I hope that they end it with the reintroduction of Yuta. I hope that they end it with that. Because, you know, Yuta is the second MC, or technically the first MC of Jujutsu Kaisen. And, you know, he's just really cool. So it would be cool to have him be reintroduced and have that be like the cliffhanger for the season. I don't think I'm going to be doing another stream for the next episodes or such, unless again it is of like this type of quality where there's just so much to continually dissect about it. But otherwise, I'm just gonna leave that for the actual anime reviewers. You guys know who they are, probably. They're pretty big on YouTube. But yeah, the next episodes are indeed going to be very traumatic. yup. And I don't even know why I'm laughing, because, oh man, like, just with the cliffhanger that we got from this episode, with Nanami having insane death lags, like, oh man, I don't even want to think about it. It's like getting my stomach turning like right now, bro. Like, oh man. Oh, I feel bad for these characters, and it's fictional. It's not even real. And yet I feel so bad for them. But yeah, it just goes to show how great the source material is that Gege Akutami made, to truly have us this invested for a series that is moving at such a fast pace. So yeah, it's truly just amazing experience so far. And I hope that in the future we get more episodes like this. And again, I don't want them to have such horrible working conditions, but yeah, like, I truly hope that we can still get like this level of quality keeping going forward. But yeah, if you guys have anything you still want to ask me in the chat, please feel free to do so. And if not, then I think I'll be ending the stream in like 10 minutes. So yeah, and I'm just gonna again be answering some questions in the chat, and I'll be going over what we could see in the upcoming episodes. So yeah, we have the Nanami cliffhanger, of course. Mahito still running free. We have Pseudo Ghetto, who's also still doing whatever he's doing at the bottom of Shibuya Station. So it's interesting. What's my favorite domain expansion? Ooh, it's a good one. There are a lot of OP domains. like for example Infinite Void, Malevolent Shrine, Kenjaku's domain. They're all really good. But I think my favorite, it's a really weird choice, but it's Naoya's domain. And my reasoning for that is because Naoya's domain truly shows how much or how different your technique can become once it is up to 120% efficiency. Because, you know, being in a domain expansion, you get like your little boost, your 120% boost. And projection sorcery, it's a, in my opinion, a really boring technique, or at least I don't like the technique per se, but the technique is able to target people or objects or curse spirits as a whole. But once he has the domain power up, the technique is suddenly able to target you on a cellular level, which I think is super interesting. Because I'm like, okay, if a technique that in my opinion wasn't all that impressive could suddenly become incredibly impressive within a domain, what would other techniques look like inside a domain? Like for example, Takaba's technique. Like, I don't know if you guys are like caught up with like the recent chapters with Takaba versus Kenjaku, but you know, his technique is basically just reality manipulation, reality bending. It's like Scarlet Witch from Marvel, and I wouldn't say it's like Toon Force. I would more so say it's reality manipulation. Yeah. And how powerful would his technique become if it's in a domain? And that's why I like Naoya's domain, because it just proves the fact that a technique truly, it truly, how do I put it? We don't know what the limits of all techniques are. Like even Gojo, for example, with his techniques, we thought that you know, the peak of his curse technique would be like Hollow Technique Purple, but then we saw that he could even take it one step further and go Hollow Technique Unlimited Purple. And the Unlimited Purple is basically that instead of shooting it as an orb in one direction, he just lets it go in all directions. And it's a little less powerful, but it allows you to hit such a wide range that no one's escaping it. No one's escaping it. No matter how fast you are. Even Sukuna level characters on his type of speed are not escaping the Unlimited Purple. And I just love that. I love that. Because, you know, in the Goodwill event, we saw like Hanami was able to escape Hollow Purple, or at least they took damage, but only part of their body got hit because they started retreating before Hollow Purple got fired off. But if it were Unlimited Hollow, then no matter how far Hanami went, Hanami would still get exercised. Of course, that would also still mean that his students would also get hit and stuff like that. So I don't think he would use that at that point in time. But it just goes to show that curse techniques have so much potential. That's why I love Naoya's domain. Jean, your favorite domain is Restless Gambler. Okay, that's a good pick. I like that. I can see why. It's a good domain. Oh, your favorite's Megami? Okay. I like that domain too. It's cool. I wish that we would still at some point in the story get to see the full potential of Megami's domain. Like, completed. That is my one wish for... Oh, not my one. I have more wishes for Jujutsu Kaisen. I mean, my last video was literally about stuff that I wanted to still see happen or still get answered. But, yeah, I just think it would be really cool to see Megami's domain completed. Yeah, Megami's full domain. So, like, you know, he's not really good with barriers, so he would go like a Sukuna type route where he would do a barrierless domain and like just an entire city full of shadows, and just imagine like a million divine dogs running at you. And we know that when he has his domain active, he can summon like multiple of the same Shikigami. He can summon like I think Shikigami that have already been exercised, and then still include the totality summonings. So it has a lot of potential, and I'd like to see what it truly can become. So yeah, let's see what else we still have left for Shibuya. Oh yeah, Todo still is yet to make an appearance. Yeah, that's gonna be so good when Todo comes back and he teaches Yuji about the cog mentality. Ooh, that's gonna be so good. So good, so good. The cog mentality. When that episode happens, I'm gonna be happy. Because it truly signifies like a different, a shift in Yuji's mindset, and him reaching a point in the series where he will actively want to become stronger for the sake of exercising curses. Not just for like the sake of being a sorcerer, which he's been doing now. What else do we have coming up? Oh yeah, Yuki's reintroduction. I'm interested to see that. I want to see the catfish curse spirit. Because I've always been curious, is the catfish curse spirit a special grade or is it a grade 1 curse spirit? Because it's able to basically disorient Yuji, who we know should be able to take out weaker special grade curse spirits at this point in the story. Like the finger bearers, for example. Like current Yuji should be able to take down a finger bearer, but he wasn't able to take down the catfish spirit, or at the very least he got so disoriented that he couldn't do anything against it. But I want to know if it's special grade, so I hope that special grade or not, and I hope that the anime clarifies that for us. We're gonna see a couple black flashes. Yeah, the reintroduction of black flash is gonna be really cool, because you know, black flash and Todo, those like, I would almost say go hand in hand, because Todo's the one who taught Yuji about black flash. Oh yeah, we're gonna see a villain black flash too. That's gonna be really good. Yeah. And then Mahito reaching his full potential, quote unquote. I personally still think he had more potential, but he calls it his full potential. So that's gonna be really cool too, seeing that animated. And then that would lead into the I'm You scene. That's also gonna be really good. I've been seeing so much fan art on Twitter of like different scenes in JJK, and the I'm You scene gets done quite often. And wow, I hope that the anime does it justice. I hope that the anime does it justice, because the I'm You scene is so good, with like the parallels of like the fox and the bunny and the wolf. If you know, you know. So good. So good. Oh yeah, and Choso finally realizing, or well, he already realized that Yuji is his brother, but like him coming to terms with it. And then we'll get like the revelation of who Pseudo Ghetto is, and a couple of the bodies he's possessed so far, or at least one of them. Oh yeah, we're gonna get the reintroduction of the other Kyoto students again, and then we're gonna see the greatest feat of a grade 1 sorcerer, in my opinion, which was Kusakabe blocking a certain attack. It's gonna be cool to see, and I wonder how it's gonna differ from that same attack in the JJK Zero movie, the final attack, because the art style did change up a little bit, So I wonder how it's gonna look. And also they have like an in-universe reason why Uzumaki looks different, because this time it contains Mahito. Oh wait, spoiler, lol. But yeah, I wonder how they're gonna adapt that. It looks, I think it's gonna look really cool. We're gonna get Uraume again too. And yeah, that's about it for Shibuya. But we still have 6 episodes left. So yeah, maybe Yuji versus Mahito will be an entire episode on its own. Maybe even 1.5 episodes. Not sure. It would be cool if it is. And then like at the final episode you have like the Yuta cliffhanger, where he like saves that one child, and then he goes to the higher ups, and then he says like, he reveals what happened to Inumaki, and then he's like, yeah, I'm gonna get Itadori myself. That would be like a really good cliffhanger. So yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes. Might make it to Naoya versus Choso? I don't know. It might, but I feel like that would be kind of rushing it. I don't know. You might be right though. But we still have a lot to go. Because we have, like, Yuji versus Mahito is such a long stretch of chapters. It's even longer than Sukuna versus Mahoraga, which was, I think, 3 or 4 chapters in the manga. And that got an entire episode dedicated to itself. And Yuji versus Mahito was like 14 chapters, if I'm not mistaken. Because it includes the bit with Nobara, it includes the bit with Todo, and it includes the final part with Sudogeto. So I think it might be 1 or 2 episodes. Maybe 1.5, I'm not sure, but I'm interested to see how they package it, how they decide to package it. But yeah, if it does go all the way up to Naoya versus Choso and stuff like that, then you would also have to include the bit with the Zenin family introduction, with like the announcement of what happened to Naobito, because Jogo burned him. You would have to like cover all of that, and that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chapters on its own. Yeah, because if you do decide to like have the Naoya versus Choso, then I think the cliffhanger would be with Megumi returning, and then the announcement of the culling game. I think that would be a good cliffhanger, where he's like, Noritoshi made plans for everyone to face off in a culling game, and Sumiki is ensnared in that, so I'm begging you, Itadori, I need your strength. And then cut. Even though that's the start of the chapter, just cut it off there. But yeah, I don't know. Can they be Choso and Todo talk at least once? Oh, I don't think that's gonna happen. Maybe if they like introduce like a bunch of anime only material, like a bunch of new anime stuff, but I don't think they're gonna interact. They might though, but I don't know. It would be cool though. I'm not gonna lie, it would be cool, because both of them had like their quote unquote memory that didn't exist with Yuji. They had that moment with Yuji, so I wouldn't mind it if they got like a moment to interact together. Wouldn't mind that at all. But yeah, that's it for the stream, guys. Thank you for joining, thank you for watching, thank you for sharing your opinions with me. It's been fun, and yeah, if another amazing episode like this happens again, I might just do another stream. Or maybe just like in between sometime there. I don't know. Depends what happens, what the people want. But yeah, I have like this super cool new layout for the stream, which I didn't have before. So, yeah, I'm down to stream more in the future. I'm also gonna try and get more videos out at a quicker pace, because what I'm doing right now is like one video like every 2 months. It's not that good. It's not that sustainable, I should say, because like I managed to keep like for what I find like a pretty decent standard of quality. But the downside is that I'm super slow with editing. So like, for example, in my last video I said something about Takaba, and then in the meantime, as I was editing the video, Takaba returned in the manga. So yeah, I just kind of want to avoid stuff like that. So I'm gonna try and figure out ways to make the editing quicker or easier to push out more content quicker for you guys. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Yeah, see you next time, guys. Thank you for joining. Your support is always much appreciated. Later.